President Trump has encouraged his supporters to turn to Newsmax instead of Fox News. And for the very first time, Newsmax has eclipsed Fox News in a very specific part of ratings during one show during the key demographic. But still happened.
Still a big deal.
Yeah.
Editor-in-chief at The Real News and host of the Working People podcast, Maximilian Alvarez, joins us, as well as Capitol Hill reporter at The Daily Caller, Henry Rogers. Great to have you guys back. Henry, let me start with you on this one. I mean, okay, yeah, it's 1 hour. It's in the key demo, which is all that advertisers care about. I mean, that is actually the metric that matters. But this is kind of a watershed moment. Newsmax was always this tiny, irrelevant flea, and now all of a sudden they're at least somewhat competitive with Fox.
Yeah, Crystal, everyone's always asking me, where's Newsmax headed? Is it going to become the next Fox News? All these things. I don't see it happening. I think we're at a very weird point right now in time where there's a lot of people, Trump supporters, who are extremely upset with Fox News for fairly calling and rightly calling the election the way it went. We have a new president coming in, and Fox News accepted that. Newsmax, on the other hand, has refused to accept that. So I think there's a large audience of, say, boomers who are kind of flooding over to Newsmax and to spite Fox News out of anger about this election. Right. I do think they'll come running right back, though, once Biden is elected and once there's some real reporting going on. Newsmax is not doing any real reporting. Fox News is actually doing some reporting.
No,
so
I think you're right.
I just do not see Newsmax lasting, this rise of Newsmax lasting for forever.
Right. And, this is the interesting question, Max, which is that you saw what happened to MSNBC. They gave the Democratic base everything that they wanted on Russiagate, Rachel Maddow and all that. Mueller report comes out and a ratings drop off after 500,000 in like a single week. And so if you see what's going on at Newsmax and they keep telling you all this stuff, but then Joe Biden gets inaugurated as president, I mean, how do you spin that? I don't think that that's really possible.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, like the kind of note of caution at the beginning is very important, right? I mean, Fox News is still a behemoth, and it's going to continue to be a behemoth. But I do think that there is kind of an interesting question here about whether or not this is a momentary flashpoint or a potential turning point in the media ecology of the 21st century, as it were, right? Because I don't think we are ever going to see another network rise to the level that Fox News has and basically kind of gobble it up and outcompete it. I don't think that that's the way media is headed anymore. I think instead it is potentially fracturing to this sort of smorgasbord that people can piece together a media diet from. And, now that everything has kind of been absorbed and is distributed through this medium of the internet, the playing field is a lot different from the days when, cable packages and newsstands and that sort of infrastructure really kind of commanded the audience, the mass audience that is no longer really a thing anymore, right? The mass audience has kind of been fractured. And so I think that the point about reporting is a really, really interesting one, because I think that, obviously with the way things have been going, right, the capacity for news organizations to really sustain original reporting, it's no secret, that has been waning for a long time. But what you have seen come up in its place is just a constant barrage of commentary and a constant barrage of shows that really kind of serve this function to validate people's kind of opinions and provide these sorts of spaces where their kind of cultural and existential biases can be confirmed for them. And I think that there's a really interesting kind of political question there about why that is the case.
Yes.
Right? Because I think that, in fact, news, as it were, which has more or less become mainly commentary, has become a major front in the culture war because it is the one realm in which people in this country feel like they actually have some modicum of power. Even if it's an illusory power, it's this cultural power of being right and having power over people who are wrong. And that's what things like Newsmax and Fox and MSNBC provide.
Yeah,
right.
I think you're so correct.
I mean, Henry, I guess
I watch TV.
Well, and I guess I am not so confident as you. Not that I'm like really cheering for Fox News here, but that people are going to come running right back to Fox News, because I think it's very easily spun. Yeah, sure, Joe Biden got inaugurated because the deep state backed him, or whoever the conspiratorial forces that be successfully rigged the election, and this was all stolen, and we're going to continue to be now the resistance on the right to Joe Biden. And at the same time, you've got Trump out there. He's not going anywhere. So the latest reporting is he's probably unlikely to start his own media venture, so he'll probably continue to sort of pump up Newsmax and appear on there. Oh, yeah. Obviously has a massive loyal following. So, listening to Max talk, it kind of occurred to me, the reason Fox News was able to become such a juggernaut is because they essentially had a monopoly on conservative perspective in cable news, okay? If you talk to liberals, they basically trust every mainstream outlet. So if you're MSNBC and you're trying to get that liberal audience, you have a whole array of competitors for those eyeballs. Fox News was basically it. So in some ways, it was almost inevitable that there come a time where there is that same fracturing on the right that there's long been on the left in terms of, consumer focus and potential media offerings.
Yeah, but have you ever watched Newsmax? The production level is a disaster. The anchors are boring, and the whole programming is a disaster. If they up it up, if they get a lot of money, if they get more people to dive in, that would be really interesting to me. I think you're right about President Trump hyping up Newsmax when he leaves office. I think that will likely happen. But I really don't see it growing. I think there's only one show on Newsmax that is even being discussed right now. And all the other people are just on Twitter chirping about how much they hate Fox News, but yet they get all of their news from Fox News. And you see it, they're taking screenshots of the TV. So I really don't think that many people are actually watching Newsmax as we really think there are. And I think
your point is fair that I have not consumed much Newsmax to have an educated judgment about the quality of the programming, Henry.
That's right. That's right. All right, guys. Thanks for your insights. Really good. Please.
Sure. Go ahead, Max.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to throw one more thing into the pot. This is why I think we have to understand Newsmax not just in a head-to-head matchup with Fox, but to see Fox and Newsmax in a broader kind of ecosystem of media. If you want to depress yourself, go look at the top politics podcasts on Apple Podcasts. Like Ted Cruz is number 3, right? Rush Limbaugh. There is, in fact, like I said, a giant smorgasbord of content out there that is largely commentary based that, people are sort of piecing together. I think Fox News is not commanding the centrality of people's media diets. It may still be a part, but people are expanding that, to include other things like podcasts, YouTube shows, websites, social media personalities, and I don't think we can necessarily predict where that's going to go in the rest of the 2020s, but I think it's going to be a major factor.
It's an excellent point, man.
Didn't even know Ted Cruz had a podcast, and I'm super sad.
He does.
Thanks, guys. Great to see you both.
All right.
Thanks,
Coming
guys.
up, Joe Biden wants Congresswoman Marsha Fudge to lead the Department of Housing and Urban Development. So host of the Bad Faith podcast, great friend of the show, Brianna Joy Gray, she's going to give her take on who might take that congressional seat. That's when Rising continues.